It's my great pleasure, believe me, to introduce tonight's speaker, Max.
My name is Max. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Dave, for opening for me, and I see a lot of people from my home group. Thank you for coming. You're a lot kinder than I am. I wouldn't be here. It's 107 degrees outside, Anyway, thank you for coming. I was gonna lie tonight and make up a lot of stories. Then my wife decided to come, and ruin the whole thing, So anyway, what it was, what happened, what it is now, I'm going to share my experiences, strength, and hope that how Alcoholics Anonymous works in my life. AA works. We are the prime example of it. That's why we're here, because it works in our life. We got a few newcomers in here. I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. If drinking, drugging is your problem, welcome to AA. If living life is your problem and alcohol and drug was your solution, welcome home. Because that's my story to get in here. What it was, I was born in the other side of the world, in Iran, Tehran, and loving family. None of my parents are alcoholics. None of my siblings are alcoholics. So I never had a role model what alcoholic is. And growing up, all I know, I had alcoholism before I ever pick up alcohol. So I was irritable, restless, and discontent when I was 5, when I was 10. I'm the child sitting around the table eating lunch, and I'm worried about what are we gonna have for dinner. And keep asking, we are on vacation, I'm asking, where are we gonna go next year? I just could not ever stay in a moment. I always looking for something to fix me. And that's the definition of the ism for me. Irritability, restlessness, and discontent, that I am severely bothered by it and keep looking for something to fix it. And a lot of things has fixed my alcoholism throughout the years. The first thing I find to fix me was the sports. I got addicted to sports. I couldn't get enough of them. Put my wires together, give me adrenaline. I was a soccer player, swimmer, and a skater. And I was just drawn to sports, had a lot of friends running around with a lot of kids in the school, and I just loved the sports and fixed me. Put my wires together for a period of time. But I'm like a quarter a horse mile race, quarter a horse, race in a mile race. I run out of battery in a quarter mile. I'm a good starter, I never finish. Whatever I do, I get bored with it and I'm done with it. So I did a lot of things in my life, I never finish anything. So the things I have in common with you, I find about alcoholism, the biggest one is a lack of self-esteem. That I'm not gonna be good enough. That happened to me, I remember it exactly when it happened. I got 2 older siblings, a brother and a sister. Brother 10 years older than me, the sister 12 years older than me, and they were leaving home when I was 11 years old. One of them gonna be a cardiologist, the other one was gonna be a PhD in physics. And I take a good look up there, and I decided I'm gonna be a screw up that day. I wasn't gonna pan out, I'm never gonna pan out to be a, PhD in physics or a cardiologist. I froze, at 12 years old, and I thought they set this bar way too high for me, So I start acting up, at 12 years old. I want negative attention, and I start getting it. I become a black sheep of the family, and make up stories, I grew up in a really well-to-do family. Both of my parents are PhD, and academics was really important in my family, and I am thinking I'm not gonna pan out, I'm just gonna be a screw up. I used to tell my dad at 12 years old, the country needs janitor too, So that was my mindset, and so We owned a pharmaceutical company back home, and my dad really trying hard to make a man out of me. So 13 years old, he sent me with a bunch of workers to the poppy field. They used to grab poppies and process them and make pills out of them. So I go to work, with these people in a poppy field, this summer break, and they all get a stick to your hand. And comes lunch break, I saw all these workers laying down on the grass and licking their fingers. I did the same thing, and I had a spiritual awakening. All of a sudden, this was the best feeling I ever had in my life. I was no longer irritable, restless, or discontent. I was in the harmony with the whole world, and I was angry. Why they did keep these things from me? Why they didn't give these things to me when I was 7, or 8, or whatever? I'm so grateful I'm not grown up in this day and age, because if I was a child right now, I would have been on 18 different medications. I'd be ADT, ADHD, whatever you name it. I'd be in all of those things because I was an out-of-control kid. This put my wires together. I went home. My father, he wasn't a drinker, but he had cognacs from all over the world. And I opened one of the bottles and I started drinking them, and just world became colorful. I find what I've been looking for, finally, and that was recorded in here. I start chasing it to the gates of hell, till I got sober, the last time. My sobriety date, by the way, is April 4, 2001, and I am grateful for that, I'm grateful you're all here. I mean, I look around this room, it's 7:30 Wednesday night. City of Las Vegas is safer because you're all sitting here, Imagine all of us driving right now in blackout, So it's a beautiful thing to see, Anyway, so I start drinking and start escalating. It's progressive. Now, this is a stage that man takes a drink. Later on, drinkers start taking a drink. And at the end game, drink takes the man. So this is a stage that drink is taking a drink. Is fun, and I'm having a lot of fun drinking, and I start emptying all of my dad's cognac bottles and putting tea in it, and drinking it. And he finally realized what is going on, and they knew I had problems. I remember I have 13 cousins. We used to go to my grandma's house and we all play. And my grandma used to walk to me, and now I'm 10 years old. I haven't had a drink or anything. And she used to walk to me and say, "Boy, there is something wrong with you. I just don't know what it is." And there was something wrong with me. She could sense it. And all of those 13 grandchildren, I'm the only alcoholic. So anyway, fast forward, I moved to Europe to go to college. I don't know, our family was gifted with academic. I didn't have to study hard. I just listened in the class and I passed, with flying color. I had all A's. Went to Europe, and my sister was there at the time, going to college, and she was my guardian. I showed up there, and before we start the college, I decided I want to go and take a vacation with one of my friends, and I end up in this island called Ibiza, and I didn't come back for a year. That's what happens to me under influence. Nobody knew where I was. I come back and I'm in a milk carton. They're looking for me as a missing person. My family has hired people to look for me, and I never bothered to pick up a phone and call because I was just basically high the whole time, and I remember bits and pieces. I talk about drugs because that's what brought me here faster, all right? But I am a true alcoholic. But I, discover acid, when I was in Europe, and all of a sudden I love to just go to Vatican and take acid and wander around. for hours looking at Michelangelo works, and Da Vinci's. And at that point, everybody thought I'd become this devout Catholic, going to church. But that's what happened, and I start mixing a lot of things. I find a white powder, and I find out I can drink more. So I wouldn't have blackouts when I was doing white powder. So anyway, I show up back home, and my sister sees me, and she's very happy to see me. She give me a hug. Then she stood back and punched me in the face, and we didn't talk for a long, long time. I hurt her so bad, she didn't want anything to do with me. Anyway, I wandered around, the result was the same thing. Wherever I went, I took me with me. I find the people like me, I immediately hook up with them. I remember this place in England called Shepherd's Bush, right outside of London, that was a drug zone. And I find everybody in that neighborhood, like within 2 days, and it just amazes me how, like, we have a radar, we find people, so I find my people, and the result was the same thing. And I find this aristocrat in England, Lord Humphrey III, and we drank together, and he was a screw-up like me, and he had a whole world of resentment, but he had a driver and a Bentley. So that's why I love Lord Humphrey, and we went to high-class bars because Lord Humphrey paid for it, But then I moved to United States, and I find myself in a sawdust bar, with Bobby Lou, and Peggy Sue, same deal. As I got plastered over there, I got plastered over here. Nothing changed, and I just find the people that I hang with. I have no idea about alcoholism at this point in my life. I just drink, So moved to Philadelphia to get my MBA degree. Again, my father was academic. He says, I pay for it. You go to a school. He said, I know you want to be janitor. You'll be the only janitor with MBA, but you're going to get your MBA. So I went to school and landed in Philly, and going to University of Pennsylvania, and going to an Ivy League school, and all of these things happening. All of a sudden, my grandfather died, and he left all of his money to grandchildren. Now, I'm a guy that drinks, gambles, drugs. The worst case scenario for a guy like me to inherit a lot of money. Bad case, And Atlantic City just opened up, Resort International, 1978, and I'm a regular customer, 55-minute drive. I had it down to science, So I just drive to Atlantic City, and gamble and all of these things. And what had happened, the hostages happened in 1978, and all of a sudden, my whole life turned upside down. I went to bed one night, and the next morning I got up, and I was the enemy of the nation, and all of the things that came with it. At the time, we had estate stores in Philadelphia. They closed at 5 o'clock, so you can't buy booze anymore. And we had to drive to Jersey. I got that money, and I'm one of those people who have idea of things. I don't know if you're like me. I have an idea of money, but I don't know what to do with real money. I have an idea of marriage, but I don't know what to do with real marriage. I have an idea of things. So my idea was to open a nightclub, and we opened a nightclub in Philadelphia, and I have arrived. I have my own bar, my own booze, and everything that I need. And I start drinking, and I ran down that company to the ground. Within a year and a half, I ran out of money, and I got a job, with the hotel business, and moved to Washington, D.C., and they're training me to be a troubleshooter. I'm a cost analyst. I got my MBA. So I am drunk all the time. I can't make it to work right, but my office is somewhere on the corner. I'm dealing with figures, and nobody knows me, and that's my function, basically, to cut costs. I'm like Doge, what Doge is doing right now. That was my job, to cut costs, and Christmas, I'm the guy handing awards, at Christmas party. So I am totally drunk, standing on a podium, handing out, awards, and I had a resentment over my bonus check for Christmas. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. I didn't like my boss that much. And I'm standing on a podium, there's a podium like this, with a dance floor right next to it. And I'm standing there and said, we achieved this and we achieved that. And I stop in the middle of the sentence. I'm in complete blackout. And I said, what is this we crap? I didn't get my bonus check. And I screw all of you, and fall off the stage. And they had to call the ambulance. I had alcohol poisoning in my blood. And next thing I know, I'm in GW, hospital in DC, and so I figured I'm fired. I'm making plan already. What am I gonna do from here? And they called me from the company and said, Max, we need to see you after you get out. And I'm like, see me for what? They go, no, it's really important for you to come to the headquarters. So I go to the headquarters, and they tape these things. So they had a tape of me. They put it, and I started watching that. I just wanted the ground to open up, and I was so ashamed, and so they sat there. I watched the whole thing, and they said, we have spent a lot of money to train you. We don't want to let you go. But we think you have a problem. Would you like to go to rehab, And I jump up and down, yes, I'm going to go to rehab. And that has started many rehabs. I loved rehabs. They sent me to this chic hospital in Minnesota with racquetball and jacuzzi and a cook and a chef, and playing volleyball, weaving baskets and crap, I'm like, I loved it. They gave me all kind of information, and later on, it's funny, I read, Jim's story that put milk to the whiskey. Came to me, years later, that I did the same thing in a different shade. So I go to this place, they give me a barrage of information, group meetings, psychotherapists, on and on and on. And I come home, I run to my one of my people that they lived in an apartment, we used to play volleyball. He goes, I haven't seen you for a while, where have you been? I said, I've been in rehab, I was sober like 40 days. And I vow I'm never gonna drink again. I'm not gonna ruin my career, and he goes, for what? I said, I was in rehab for alcohol. He goes, that's easy. If you just eat a couple of sticks of butter before you drink, you'll be just fine, So all that information went out the window. I went and bought some butter. And took a couple of sticks of butter, and I got sick. I never got sick that bad in my life, throwing up for days, and so that's as far as that rehab sinks in, When you're not ready, that's my story. I wasn't ready. You hear a different story in Alcoholics Anonymous. You completely hear a different thing, and I wasn't ready. I remember I came to Alcoholics Anonymous later, and I'm sitting in the meetings, and I'm in a book study, and we are doomed to an alcoholic death. And I'm asking myself, how doomed? Is it little doomed, or is it really doomed, We're gonna go to bitter end. How bitter can it get, I had to go see Doom and Bitter. I had to hit that bottom. I'm a firm believer. If you haven't hit your bottom, all of these are academics. All of these are information. For me, it took a long time to get that bottom. So after that rehab, I end up in other rehabs. They moved me to Santa Barbara, California. I moved to West Coast. And it got so bad, I'm 26 years old, and I couldn't make it to the work most of the time. And I have an apartment about a mile down the road. I crash in the hotel room. And I had a employee approached me. He broke his anonymity, walked to my office one day, sat there, shared some of his story with me, 12-stepped me, basically. I didn't know what 12-stepping was, and he said, "You're an alcoholic," and then he asked me if I want to go to a meeting with him. So he picked me up. We went to the meeting in Ohio Street in Santa Monica, and I loved that meeting. I got sober. I got involved. We do what we do. I got involved with the group. I got a home group. I got a sponsor. I got involved, and I stayed sober for a long time. Moved to Orange County, meet my wife, in car business later on. Best thing ever happened to me in car business was Mona, and biggest commission of my life, what it is right now, I'm blessed. God put the kindest, nicest woman on earth to be my wife. And we went to hell and back together, But anyway, I always say, I married well. I don't know what she was thinking to this day, So, but anyway, I got sober, and I did what a lot of people do. I got this. I got the information. I got the knowledge. I got this. I stopped going to meetings. I never stopped taking the steps. I never stopped praying, But I severed the connection with Alcoholics Anonymous. I stopped calling people. I started receiving phone calls. I stopped going to meetings. So over the decades sober, all of a sudden my head told me, "You're not an alcoholic. You were a drug addict, but you really don't have any problem with alcohol." So I walk, now we're moving to Orange County. We live in Orange County. I walk to the Newport Beach. They had a restaurant at the end and a bar, and I ordered an Odoo. And then I ordered another Odoo. Then I ordered a shot of whiskey. Then I decided to call my dope dealer, see if his phone works. And he answered. So it took me over 8.5 years to get back here, guys. It's like God put his hand in front of Alcoholics Anonymous and said, "Max, you're not going to get another shot." I wanted to get sober. I couldn't get sober. It's a horrible place to be. I vowed that I'm never going to drink again. I'm on my knees. God, take my life. And next morning, as soon as my eyes open, I got so much fear, shame, and guilt that I can't stand me. I just can't look in the mirror. I can't stand me. I got to have another drink and drug and keep running. I can't function anymore. I can't hold the job. I'm not one of those people who's a functional drug addict. I don't know. Some people can do it. I can't, I just blow it all, and that's what happened to me. I'm not functional. I can't function. I became like a child, and my wife had to take care of me. That's my life became too. And I started racking up criminal records. I keep getting arrested for positions, and now I got a bunch of cases in different courthouses, and I am not coherent. These are my last days, so I'm talking to myself. I am like 2 weeks away to a snap completely, and I know it in my heart. I'm just dead man walking. I am so skinny, nothing fit me. I had holes in all of my belts. I can't make any more holes. So I have a rope, I tie my jeans with a rope and I'm walking around and I think I'm cool, I got it going, Eyes are going different directions. Paranoid out of my mind, and seeing spiders everywhere. So I stand in one spot all day long and kill imaginary spider. So this is my life. She knows it. This is what I did all day, and so the last days of my life, my wife find me on the top of a refrigerator talking to myself because I can't have a contact with the ground, and now this is the grace of God in my life. Santa Ana Police Department was my angel. I got arrested for the last time twice in the same day. So, and that night my wife was, if you're an alcoholic of my type, your family at some point secretly praying, God, take him. Just kill him. Get it over with, or help him. And my wife was praying that night, and I got arrested. I ended up in jail. Now, I racked up a bunch of, felonies and everything else. And I got lucky because the law changed in the state of California. I was at 3 strikers. They're looking at long sentence. Now, we're talking about moment of clarity. I am handcuffed to this guy to go see Judge Jermaine Jefferson Jackson. He was my angel, and Jermaine was a rapist, killed somebody, set the house on fire. And I handcuffed to this guy going in front of the judge, and I am an equal with this man. I am looking at him, and I am Jermaine. I'm looking to go to prison because alcohol and drugs. And I had a moment of clarity. How did I end up here? How did my life got here? I have 2 master's degrees, great family. I know wrong from, right from wrong, and raised right with all of the things anybody needs to be successful and a happy life. Here I am, and I end up in front of the judge, and judge decided to give me another program. So they send me a program called Prop 36, probation. Now, this is a story of my life. Long time ago, when I was 17, my parents sent me to first AA meeting. I went to a psychotherapist. She told me I need AA. I never forget it. I was 21 years old. I sat there, talked to this therapist, and I said, I have a fear of failure, and I'm not happy. She looked at me and goes, happiness is a learned behavior. You got to learn how to be happy. And as far as fear of failure, you are a failure. And you need to go to AA. Later on, many rehabs. They charged me $50,000. At the end of it, gave me a big book and say, you need to go to AA. Santa Ana Police Department, Huntington Beach Police Department. They all arrested me afterward. The end result was, you need to go AA. So AA has been inviting me all of my life. The billboard has been everywhere. By God, my higher power keep telling me, Max, we don't want you to drink, So anyway, I landed up in Alcoholics Anonymous on April 4th of 2001, and I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink or a drug ever since. And I'm truly grateful for that. I came to AA. I landed in a meeting in Long Beach, California. I'm going to go quickly to recovery part and walk to these meetings, men's stag meeting in Long Beach. And they had sign all over the wall, no complaining, no bitching, no moaning, no whining. And I start bitching and moaning and whining, and this guy got on his feet, and he said, man, I'm 73 years old and I'm not going to listen to your horse shit, so are you an alcoholic? And I said, yes. He said, is your life unmanageable? I said, yes. He said, who the hell is going to manage it? You? He said, do you need help? And that day I broke down. I said, yeah, I need help. He became my sponsor. John Evans, he passed away for a while. And another gentleman, he passed away too, Frank Honeycutt. He was my grand sponsor. And these guys just surrounded me with love. A whole home group of, our new people, I want to welcome you to AA. This is the only place this whole room is rooting for you. You're not going to find it anywhere else. You have friends here you haven't met yet, lifetime friends. And that's my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. People surrounded me and they hand me to each other like a package. Just take him. Like, get in the car. The best word I ever heard, in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just get in the car, and they just carried me all over the place, My sponsor, John, had a trailer at the back of a club called MWA in Long Beach. And he just grabbed drunks off the sidewalk and brought them to his trailer and detoxed them and took them to meetings. So my job was throw him to the back of his truck. We used to go and snatch bodies in broad daylight in the city of Long Beach. John will drive, oh, I know him, grab him, you know. And a lot of those guys are sober today, you know. So I start this process with John, you know, and finally the first half of the first step clicked in, you know, that I am powerless over alcohol. I do things against my will. That's the definition of it. And the higher power, my alcohol and drug became my higher power. You know, the second part of the first step, I had a long time to grasp it. This is my life is unmanageable just for one reason, because of lack of direction. Now my problem became evident. I don't have a direction in my life. I'm like a boat without a rudder going on a circle. Once in a while I hit land, you know, and do high five, you know. I did it. But I have no direction in my life. I had no purpose in my life. And our program later on for me says human things cannot fix me. I've been trying to fix me with human things. You know, whether it's job, it's money, you know, if I just get this, if I get that. I never, ever got fixed by them. So I have a lack of direction. The second step says the direction comes from me is insane. The reason it's insane because I only do what I know. All of us sitting in here right now, you are not able to come up with a new idea unless you hear it from somebody else or read it somewhere else. Impossible. It's like a child in Africa that never seen utensils. He's going to eat with his hand unless somebody show him fork and knife and tell him how to use it. So second step tells me I am always going to do what I know, and what I know landed me in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know about you guys. I live life in my terms. I got everything I wanted to get. That's why I'm sitting in AA. It's not I didn't get my way, I got my way. You know, and I lived life the way I wanted to live. And that landed me in Alcoholics Anonymous, my best thinking. And the third step says, in order my life to change, I gotta have a direction from somewhere else, a higher power. You know, well, I got here as an atheist and arguing God with everybody could listen. You know, and my sponsor was a practical guy. You know, he said, you know, I know you don't believe in God, but did you create the mountains? Did you make the oceans? I said, no. He said, well, then some power did. It's bigger than you. You know, all you need to do is believe in something, you know, as long as it's not you. As long as you're not that higher power. And I could live with that. So my third step, I did it in a cemetery. I walked with my sponsor in the cemetery in Long Beach. It was a clear day, and we walk around, and he make imaginary people. He said this guy was a mobster, that guy was a rich guy, this was, you know, on and on and on. He said they all have a dash in the middle. They're born someday, they die someday. None of those things are important. That dash in the middle. And today is a dash day. And he said, look around you. Everything you see in this cemetery contribute to life. It was a clear day. There was trees, the breeze, the sun, the wind. He said they all bring something to life. Now, either you're part of that design or you're outside of that design. So join the design, bring something to life. So that day I made that decision that as of today, I'm going to contribute to life of another human being and my surrounding. That was my third step. I took it that way. Then we got to that beautiful fourth step that it was dreadful for me till my sponsor said, you know, look at it as a trash day. Trash days are Thursdays in my neighborhood. You know, he said, you go open the refrigerator, you look in there, you have a bad chicken and a good lettuce. And then you come and talk to me about it. Say, I have a good lettuce and a bad chicken, and I suggest you go throw out the chicken. So he goes, now you go home and open the refrigerator, you look at the chicken and go, no, this chicken has a sentimental value to me. I'm going to keep on to it for another month or so. I love the humor in Alcoholic Anonymous because that's I can connect with, you know. So I started, you know, I started putting pen to the paper, and out of that, our whole program is about finding my 6 and 7. You know, the 10 and 11 step inventory about finding my 6 and 7 on a daily basis. You know, that's the whole purpose of it. The whole program is 6 and 7. Series of things I shouldn't be doing, I'm doing them because they feel good. They're 6. I'm a smoker. I smoke cigarettes. My wife just took my pack of cigarettes away from me. I know it's bad for me. I can read. It says it causes cancer. You know, it's a thing I shouldn't be doing, but I'm doing them because there is a reward. As long as the reward is higher than consequences, I'm not going to stop. Same thing happened with me with drinking. You know, the shortcoming are the things I should be doing, I'm not doing because of fear, laziness, and ego. You know, so if I can look at those 2 decisions that I am faced with every day and don't do the things I shouldn't be doing, and it doesn't matter how they look good, I always known what the next wrong thing is. The only problem is I always wanted to do the wrong thing in a right way. I'm going to find a loophole somewhere, you know. I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it. You know, I'm the guy drive to a dead-end road and say, I'm going to find a way out of here, you know. I'm going to try, you know. There is no such thing, you know, to do the wrong thing in a right way, you know. So anyway, so there is a couple of stories changed my life. I was driven with guilt, a lot of guilt, especially with my father. You know, I let that man down real bad, and he wasn't talking to me. You know, and we had this guy, Humble Howard, which nothing was humble about him. That's why we called him Humble Howard. You know, and so Howard is talking about the guilt story, and he said there was this golfer and hit a golf ball, and it sails through 215 freeway and hit a car, you know, windshield, and called 8-car pileup. And people got broken legs, broken hands, broken neck. The cops comes in and they investigate. And they find out what happened, so they go to the golf course. The cops has the golf ball. He said, who hit this ball? And the golfer said, I did. So the cop says, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm very sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. Tomorrow, I'm going to move my shoulder a little to the right. So I thought about that, you know, past is like a broken glass. You know, you just get a broom and a dustpan and put it in the trash. But you learn and remember how you broke the glass so you don't break it again. And that's became, moving my shoulder to the right became a story of my life with all of my guilt. I started doing those amends. The hardest one was my dad. I always talk about this. I called my dad. First time he heard me, we haven't talked for like 43 years. And he answered, and who is it? I said, it's me, Dad. And he goes, yeah, what do you want? With jail you're in, how much money do you need? I said, I don't need any of those things. I just called to say I love you. He said, well, you did. He hung up the phone. And my sponsor, I called him and I said, this son of a bitch, you know, I'm never going to call him again, and blah, blah, blah. He said, no, you're going to call him next week, same time, same message. So I called my dad again, same week, same things. Yeah, how you doing? You know, I said, I just called to say I love you, Dad. Okay, you know. Hang up the phone. I continue calling him for like 4 months. And one day I was late to call. My dad called me. I get home late and my phone was ringing, you know. And by the time he died, we had a great relationship, you know. And I wasn't aware, like my sister, we didn't talk for a long time. Then she came to US from England. It stayed with me for 2 months, you know. And I had like a little amend paper. I don't know, it was like about 4 or 5 pages. And I sat there and I said, I want to make amends to you and reading these things, and I did. And she said, are you done? I said, yeah. He said, now let me tell you what you've done. So she brought this book, like 50 pages of things, you know. You know, a lot of times, you know, AA talks about we don't regret the past. I don't believe that. I regret the past. The difference is we don't drink over it. I don't drink over them. There are a lot of things I wish I could go back and it would have never happened. I don't have that power, but they were all connected and related to get me here. You know, so I get, you know, to Las Vegas. I was sober 2 years in here. My home group become GVG, Green Valley Group, 10 a.m. meeting. You know, and I also go to the Wednesday night. Tonight is my home group meeting. Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We have a speaker meeting over there. So, and I met a guy named Richie Conway, you know, and we hooked up and we got to start into service. We used to go to halfway home, recovery home, all of those things. And Richie killed himself with 23 years of sobriety because he got away from this program. I watched this man disintegrated like in 40 days. He cut his wrist first. I found him in the bathroom in his house. We tried to save him. And he went to hospital, came out, and finished the job, blowing his heart out. You know, and I know, you know, defects of character is what takes me out of here, you know. I cannot live a double life in Alcoholics Anonymous. I can't believe in something in here and do opposite of it out there. You know, and that's what happened to my friend Richie with gambling. So I got to watch out for a lot of things in here. I go to a lot of meetings. Alcoholics Anonymous, I love the big book. I love the steps. Me, God, and big book, we got loaded, and we got loaded a lot. I need the fellowship. Because fellowship, that brings it life to me. Now, and I tell you why, because the things I hear in meeting changes my life. So, Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is a recipe. Very successful, fantastic recipe. I got all the ingredients here, but if I don't cook, I'm gonna starve, you know? Now, the best cooks in the world are in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. If I don't go visit those cooks, I don't know how to cook. You know, the people in AA directed my life, continue doing that. I got a lot of people like Rosemary here, you know, she's my inspiration. She's gonna be 53 years old sober, you know, next week, and she helps this whole town. You know, and I don't know where she gets the energy. You spend one day with Rosemary, you're gonna be just white, you know? You know, I met a lot of people like Ted Davis, you know, and they hooked me up with Frank Keene and, you know, Silkwood House. And I was privileged to know those guys, you know, and run with them and see the spiritual life they live. You know, my sponsor a long time ago sat me down and we read the end of the book, 164. This is our book meant to be suggested, you know. We only know a little, you know. And then talks about all the steps. Make sure your home is in order, you know. Do not transmit what you don't have. At the end of that, it says, we see you in a fellowship of a spirit. Not fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. In AA, there is a fellowship of a spirit. Those are the people live a spiritual life, you know. And I had to hitch my wagon to those guys. And it says we only see some of you, you know. You see some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny, not all of us. So I started hitching my wagon with a lot of spiritual people. I have a real bad experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I first came in, I got sober with Pacific groups and all the hooplas, the Clancy's, you know, Norm Alpe's and Hightower, and I ran with those people. I get to know them. Some of them were cool people. Some of them were absolutely horrible people. And my problem was I forgot they're human. You know, I put them in such a high pedestal. I start judging them. My first sponsor was a child molester. I had to call the cops on him, you know. But that does not take away from AA or Alcoholic Anonymous. The best we can become is human, you know. And everybody I met in AA, they have touched my life one way or the other. All the people, you know, and certain people more than others. You know, I'm surrounded by love. You know, I never felt love that I get in Alcoholic Anonymous. Our home, me and my wife, our home became an AA home. We start sheltering people, as Keith was talking about. We used to have parties all the time, you know, and I never forget it. Like on New Year's Eve, there is like 50 kids outside in my backyard around the fire pit, and we used to count sobriety. All 50 of them together got 32 days. And then we had the older people in my dining room sitting there is like 9 people with 450 years. So we had the mixture of all of those things, you know, and all of these guys, you know, I find a drug in Alcoholic Anonymous that I never felt. The best cocaine, the best drink, the best drugs in the world doesn't even come close to it. And that's giving it back. My first round, I did Alcoholic Anonymous on ego side, not in God side. I did it in ego side. And I hit walls. I mean, me and my wife, we've been through hell and back. She was sober, I was loaded. I got sober, she was loaded. You know, we've gone through everything. You know, both of my parents died, her parents died, you know, bankruptcy, you name it. You know, we never find it necessary to pick up a drink because we're never alone. We're never alone. You know, I went through cancer. I always talk about this, you know, and I was in and out, hitting here and hitting there. And I'm in Long Beach, walk to my meetings, you know, and I said, I'm going to die. They diagnosed me. I got 9 months to live. And I talked about that every day. They tolerated me for like 8 days, my meeting. On the 8th day, the guy got on his feet. He said, Max, we know you're going to die. We're going to throw you the best potluck and funeral in city of Long Beach. We talk about how wonderful you were. Now get up and make some coffee. I'm grateful for those guys. You know, from the service, my first service commitment was a broom when I couldn't talk. I wasn't coherent. I just sat in the meeting and shake, and they handed me a broom. In my meeting, they had a big banner. It says, if you want to get there faster, take the cab. And cab was cups, ashtrays, and broom. You know, and it's today. There is no advanced AA. I wish it was. I do the same thing I did the day I got here. I go to 4, 5, 6 meetings a week. I talk to a lot of people in AA. I got few sponsees that they call me every day, you know, and one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic, nothing magical. I love our men's stag meeting on Saturday at 10 a.m. in GVG. If you're available, come and join us. It's one of the fantastic meetings of Alcoholic Anonymous in town. A lot of recovery. What I got in Alcoholic Anonymous, I came here as a punk-ass kid. You guys made me a man, then a gentleman, then a gentle soul. Today, I'm a gentle soul, you know, and I'm available for anybody who needs help. I love Alcoholic Anonymous. If you're new, I hope you keep coming back. If you're not my type of alcoholic, don't worry about it. There is another speaker here next week, you know. We all don't have the same thing and same, you know, a lot of things in Alcoholic Anonymous, I find out does not work for me. The invitation, however, our founders put it in a book and say, this is the things we did. And this is our experience. We invite you to join us. Do what we did. You draw your own conclusion, you know. But I'm open-minded to it. If I tell you I meditate, I'm lying to my teeth. I don't think I ever meditated 5 minutes in my life. Maybe someday I'll be able to do it, but I can't sit still. I'm one of those people talk to myself all the time. You know, I asked my sponsor, I said, you know, people talk to themselves in AA. He goes, yeah. If you see somebody's driving in the car and talking to himself, he's one of us. Now, if he is wearing a suit, he's the speaker tonight. Thank you.